App Settings, select Notification Preferences, and allow notifications. The Events section shows a list of events throughout the school. You can use this button to add an event to your calendar, or tap here to share the event with friends and family. The feed is where you'll find updates from administration about what's going on throughout the school, whether that's celebrating a student's success or reminding you about an upcoming deadline. Search Chesapeake Public Schools in the App Store or Play Store to explore the app for yourself. It's everything Chesapeake in your pocket.
Greetings from the Office of Family and Community Engagement, or as we like to call it, FACE. We are a dedicated department within Chesapeake Public Schools committed to serving our families and working hand in hand with community organizations. We support district-wide events, including Get on the Bus, Multicultural Family Fun Night, Family Engagement Movie Night, the Teen Summit, and Operation Military Families. But that's not all. We also host webinars and in-person workshops on various topics throughout the school year. Our goal is simple yet powerful: to support the schools, empower our families, and foster connections with various community agencies. Our Peak Parent University also provides you with easy access to explore all of our family engagement resources in one place. You can catch up on pre-recorded webinars, access a wealth of educational resources, and make community connections to promote your family's well-being. To access Peak Parent University, simply visit our website at cpschools.com and search Peak Parent University. We're also proud to offer a family welcome and support center at Oscar Smith Middle School. This welcoming space is designed to provide support and assistance specifically for our English language learner families, helping them with enrollment questions and ensuring a smooth transition into Chesapeake Public Schools. Chesapeake Public Schools Office of Family and Community Engagement, where families thrive and communities unite.
Group of Hampton Road students are back in the classroom. This morning, Chesapeake students returned for the first day of school.
Yeah, and some students will see some new changes this year. Here's how the school division is keeping safety as a top priority. Some Greenbrier Middle School students didn't expect the first day back to come so soon.
I was like, no, it's not real. It's not going to happen. And then me coming to school, I was like, wait, no, this is real. Like, it's happening.
Despite their nerves, they say they are ready to tackle new challenges.
I get to discover new things, so it's really excited, but at the same time really scary.
It kind of feels like the first day of kindergarten again.
School staff greeted them at the door with excitement Tuesday.
We have over 800 plus Panthers returning. This year is special. Greenbrier Middle School is celebrating 25 years of educational excellence.
School division leaders also hope the year is safer after expanding safety efforts. Superintendent Dr. Jarrett Cotton says they've added more sheriff deputies to serve elementary schools within the division.
This year we've added 6 more, so we're going to have 14 total, 1 per 2 schools.
Soon, more students will carry new ID badges that track students while riding the bus. It also allows them to check in daily. Dr. Cotton adds school officials have made some tweaks to the cell phone policy for high school students.
We used to allow them to use it at lunch, and now it's not permitted unless they're given special permission.
Dr. Cotton hopes the update prevents any distractions throughout the day. And Chesapeake Public Schools welcome more than 280 new teachers to the division. Dr. Cotton says 7 of those educators are students returning from the Teachers for Tomorrow program.
Vice Chair Mercer, would you please read the statement to bring us back into open session?
Chair Swigert, I move that the record shows that the only items discussed in the closed meeting were those specifically cited in the motion to convene into the closed meeting and those lawfully exempted from statutory meeting requirements.
Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Lamonia. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Dr. Smith.
Motion carries with all board members present voting yes.
Dr. Cotton, do you have items resulting from closed session?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. The following administrative appointment is submitted for board approval. Dr. Dornzuela Wilkins McCory, Gifted Coordinator, Virginia Beach City Public Schools, to Supervisor of Gifted Education, School Administration Building.
I'll entertain a motion for approval. Moved by Mr. Lamonia. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Mr. McCormick. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Dr. Smith.
Motion carries with all board members present voting yes.
We will now move on to the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. At this time, At this time, we will have a moment of silence, and then after that, I'll ask Lyric Holland, a 5th grade student from Southwestern Elementary, to lead us in the pledge. Please stand as you are able. Lyric, please lead us in the pledge.
I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Lyric. I hope your first week of school was amazing.
Thank you.
Under awards and recognitions this evening, we have a donation from Chesapeake Economic Development Office. Dr. Smith.
Thank you so much, Chair Swigert. Tonight, we are pleased to have with us members of the Chesapeake Economic Development Office who have a special presentation. Introducing our guest tonight is Mrs. Andrea Vail, Director of Engagement.
Good evening, Chair Swigert, Vice Chair Mercer, members of the board, Dr. Cotton, and staff. Tonight, we are grateful to recognize the invaluable support of Chesapeake Economic Development Department for the J.A. Cotton Career Scholar Award. This award honors one student from each of our 7 high schools who is preparing to enter the workforce after graduation. Each recipient will be awarded $1,000 to support their career journey. To be eligible, students have to have completed a program at the Chesapeake Career Center, receive positive recommendations from their instructors, and be a senior ready to enter the workforce upon graduation. We extend our thanks to the Career and Technical Education Department, led by Dr. Shonda Wyndham, for their vital role in developing the selection process for this prestigious award. Each recipient is honored during the annual Career Signing Day. This evening, I am pleased to recognize Mr. Stephen Wright, Director of Economic Development for the City of Chesapeake, for his department's incredible contribution of $13,091 from this year's golf tournament that they host, bringing the 3-year total to $37,848 to support our students in the future workforce of Chesapeake. I would now like to turn the microphone over to Mr. Stephen Wright.
Good evening. Thank you, Andrea. I just want to come today to say thank you. I want to thank you for how you are serving this community. I don't think there's any more important demographic of our city than our children. You know, we made the decision to have the foundation be the recipient of the proceeds from this golf tournament a few years ago. And people would ask, well, why do you do that? Well, for economic development, we work with the business community. And when we're talking to businesses, probably the #1 issue that they have is workforce. How can I find the talent that I need to make my business prosper? That's what we hear time and time again as we're talking with the businesses. So when we think about workforce development, there's nothing better than making sure that the children from Chesapeake Public Schools are prepared with the knowledge and the skills that they need to enter the workforce. So because workforce development is economic development, we think there's no better recipient for this award than the Chesapeake Education Foundation. We're honored to have the opportunity to make this award to the Jared A. Cotton Career Scholar Award. So I've got a big check with me. As Andrea said, it's $13,091. And I've been told to make sure that I tell you all that next year we will be celebrating the 25th anniversary of this golf tournament. It is going to be the biggest and best golf tournament that we've ever had. It's going to be on Cinco de Mayo. So we'll have a lot of fun with that. But most importantly, we are hoping to bring you all the biggest check from that golf tournament in the history. So again, thank you for what you do for our community and what you do for our children.
Mr. Wright, if you wouldn't mind proceeding to your right and to meet the members of the board.
Mr. Wright, thank you for being here tonight. And on behalf of the board, I'd like to thank you and your department for the generous donation and your continued support of our community and our students. And we're super appreciative of that and all that you do. Next on our agenda this evening is the hearing of citizens. During their allotted time, speakers should observe our rules of decorum and know that expression of concerns and criticism on matters of school policy and operations is welcome. While the speaker's own comments are welcome, they may not play pre-recorded messages. Dr. Smith, are there any citizens who have requested time to speak this evening?
Yes, we have one citizen requesting to speak.
Thank you. I want to thank the speaker who has signed up to address the board this evening. There are two ways that citizens can request time to speak at the meeting. They can call the clerk's office before 12 noon the day of the meeting, or sign up to speak in person prior to the start of the meeting. All in-person requests to speak must be submitted to the deputy clerk 5 minutes prior to the published meeting start time. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the board. Once your allotted time is over, we ask that you promptly exit the podium, and you may choose to continue to sit in the boardroom if seats are available, but standing or sitting on the floor will not be permitted, and you may not block the exit doors. We would also like to ask that you refrain from any behavior that disrupts the meeting, including the use of profanity, applause, cheering, or jeering. Dr. Smith, please call the first speaker.
Speaker number 1, you're invited to the podium. Please state your name and city of residence before you begin.
Hello, my name is Susan Steffes, and I live in Chesapeake, Virginia. Good evening, board members. My name is Susan Steffes. My son is a type 1 diabetic at Cedar Road Elementary. The school district is refusing to remotely follow my son's blood sugar on a school-provided device using his CGM as well as the Dexcom Follow app. As a result, he makes 4, sometimes more trips to the nurse's office, which is disrupting his education. Are you aware that this may be a violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act, which is a federal law? Specifically, the Individual with Disabilities Education Act, which requires public schools to make available to all eligible children with disabilities a free public education that is in the least restrictive environment appropriate to their individual needs. I am requesting that the school board invest in providing accessible and reasonable accommodation for children in this district with this disability by purchasing a $500 device that would allow the nurse to monitor my son and other children with type 1 diabetes remotely. The school board could prevent him from missing hours of education throughout the year. The technology is out there, so let's use it. Thank you.
This concludes our speakers for this evening.
Thank you for sharing your comments. Our practice is to receive information. However, we do not usually engage in dialogue, and that is our intent tonight. If appropriate and not already provided, someone from the superintendent's staff will evaluate your concern and provide a response. We will now move on to the consent agenda, and I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Mercer. Is there a second? Seconded by Dr. Walker. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Dr. Smith.
Motion carries with all board members present voting yes.
We are now moving on to the information agenda. The first item is the legislative agenda. Dr. Smith.
Thank you, Chair Swigert. In board docs tonight, you'll find a copy of our proposed legislative agenda for the 2025 General Assembly session. We've provided you with 4 top priorities this year to consider, as well as a list of items that our board and staff support and items that we oppose. The 4 topics that we're really taking a close look at this year include modernizing for tomorrow by investing in capital improvements, safeguarding funding for K-12 public education, strengthening school safety and mental health resources, and expanding learning pathways for every student. I'd like to ask board members to just provide any feedback that you may have, any changes that you may suggest. We'll present the final draft for board action at our next regular meeting on September 23rd. This concludes my item.
Thank you. The last item on the information agenda is the Modern Classroom Project Update. Dr. Miller?
Thank you, Chair Swigert. Tonight I'd like to introduce Dr. Freddie Larkin, Director of Middle School Leadership. Dr. Larkin is here to share an update on the Modern Classroom Project, which we call MCP. It's an instructional model that was implemented in several schools last year, and more schools are taking it on this year. In an MCP classroom, educators forgo the traditional front-of-the-class lecture to provide shorter forms of direct instruction that students can access whenever and wherever they might be. In this way, educators duplicate themselves digitally, allowing them to more freely respond to the various needs of students in their classroom. Students in an MCP classroom learn at their own pace. They don't move on to the next lesson simply because it's time or because they completed the requisite work. They move on when they have mastered the concept and are ready to build on that skill. We piloted the program in 3 of our middle schools last year, and Dr. Larkin is here tonight and will be sharing the positive outcomes of the program. Dr. Larkin?
Dr. Miller. Good evening, Chair Swigert, Vice Chair Mercer, school board members, and Dr. Cotton. I'm Freddie Larkin, Director of Middle School Leadership, and I'm here this evening to provide an update on the status of the Year 1 Impact Report for the Modern Classrooms Project, also known as MCP. Before I start with the findings, I would like to take a moment to thank 3 principals involved with the pilot program: Dr. Beth Pallister at Western Branch Middle, Dr. Kim Pinello, Hickory Middle School, and Ms. Dee Williams at Oscar Smith Middle. I'd also like to thank Ms. Fallon Graham and Dr. T. Bunch Bodie, who worked on this year-long report with staff on the Modern Classroom Project. Special thanks to Dr. Jatan Jones and Ms. Kimberly Collins, who've done an exceptional job supporting the 3 schools with implementing this model of instruction. Lastly, I'd like to thank Dr. Cotton, Ms. Edwards, and Dr. Miller for continually encouraging innovation at the middle school level and for all of their support. As you may recall, last year was the first year of implementation with the Modern Classrooms Project at 3 of our middle schools: Hickory Middle School, Oscar Smith Middle, and Western Branch Middle School. In total, we had approximately 32 teachers who were part of this program trained and implemented. As you'll see from this update, the data after the first year has yielded positive results, and we're excited to have expanded the program for year 2. For the 24-25 school year, we have an additional 72 teachers who've gone through the Modern Classroom Project Summer Institute, and we already have a waiting list for those requesting training as part of the Fall Institute. If you're not familiar with the Modern Classrooms model, it is essentially comprised of 3 key components: blended learning, where students access new content from teacher-created videos; a self-paced structure that's personalized to meet the needs of each student based on their level of readiness; and lastly, mastery-based grading, which allows students to progress through the unit when they demonstrate mastery of key concepts. While these individual concepts may not be new, when you package them with a level of support and training through the Modern Classroom Project system, it creates a truly robust, student-centered instructional model that yields significant results in narrowing achievement gaps. There were 5 goals identified as part of our Year 1 implementation. Goal 1 looked at levels of student engagement and autonomy. Goal 2 looked at how instruction was personalized to meet the needs of our students. Goal 3 focused on the quality of student-teacher relationships. Goal 4 addressed the type of professional development offered to support this initiative. And Goal 5 focused on teacher perceptions and overall satisfaction with this model of instruction. The study used data from surveys administered to Modern Classroom Project teachers and non-MCP teachers, teacher focus groups, student surveys, and administrative data to determine Modern Classroom Project impact. The sample included 32 Modern Classroom Project teachers, 24 comparison teachers, and 693 students. When looking at Goal 1, we focused on overall levels of student engagement and autonomy, which are critical components of the Modern Classrooms Project. Based on our findings, students assigned to an MCP teacher demonstrated increased engagement and autonomy. The findings showed that 75% of the Modern Classroom teachers reported that student behavior improved versus 21% of the non-Modern Classroom Project teachers. 75% of the Modern Classroom Project teachers also reported that student motivation improved, and 88% of the Modern Classroom Project teachers reported that students were more engaged in school versus the non-Modern Classroom Project teachers. Goal 2 explored teacher perceptions and the ability to provide personalized learning experiences to their students. Modern Classroom Project teachers reported the following. 75% of the Modern Classroom Project teachers reported that they were able to meet every student's needs, versus 39% of the non-Modern Classroom Project teachers. 87% of the Modern Classroom Project teachers reported that they were able to effectively serve students at all levels of understanding, versus 66% of the non-Modern Classroom Project teachers. And lastly, 87% of the Modern Classroom Project teachers were able to use data to provide targeted supports in comparison to 79% of the non-Modern Classroom Project teachers. Of the 3 components of the Modern Classroom Project model, 81% reported using blended learning in their classrooms, 75% were using the self-paced practices in their classrooms, and 82% were incorporating mastery-based practices in their classes. Goal 3 focused on the quality of relationships between students and teachers, with the expectation that participation in a modern classroom project class would lead to stronger relationships between students and their teachers. Based on these findings, we observed that 57% of the students in an MCP classroom reported having a good personal relationship with their teachers in comparison to 47% of non-modern classroom project teachers. 69% of the modern classroom project students reported that their teachers challenged them to learn as much as they can versus 62% of the non-modern classroom project classes. And lastly, 70% of the students in MCP classes reported that their teacher cared about them as an individual in comparison to 64% of the non-MCP classes. When we looked at Goal 4, professional development, we wanted to ensure that the professional development, training, and support for teachers allowed them to effectively transition to a modern classroom project model from the traditional approach to teaching. In a nutshell, we really wanted to ensure that our teachers were making the necessary shift to create truly personalized, student-centered learning environments where individual student differences were being accounted for. Overall, MCP teachers reported significant growth in their levels of competency after receiving the ongoing training over the course of the school year. As you can see here, after receiving the training, 92% reported that they knew how to plan self-paced units of study. 92% reported that they knew how to assess students efficiently based on mastery. 96% reported that they had a clear vision for how their students would learn. 96% reported that they knew how to create high-quality instructional videos. And lastly, 96% reported that they knew how to use technology to help their students learn. Our last area of focus for Goal 5 looked at teacher satisfaction with this particular model of teaching and learning. Our goal was to increase teachers' perceived job satisfaction and overall career happiness, and to reduce undesirable behaviors among students. Teacher survey data indicated that modern classroom project teachers were more satisfied with their careers than non-modern classroom project teachers. Of the findings, 75% of the MCP teachers reported that they now enjoy teaching more versus 50% of non-modern classroom project teachers. 63% of the modern classroom project teachers reported that they found teaching more sustainable versus 32% of the non-modern classroom project teachers. 75% of the modern classroom project teachers reported feeling more optimistic about the future of education versus 21% of non-modern classroom project teachers. 88% of modern classroom project teachers reported that they were part of a movement towards better education, while only 42% of non-modern classroom project teachers reported the same. Lastly, 88% of the modern classroom project teachers reported that they intend to continue teaching for many more years versus 76% of non-modern classroom project teachers. In addition to the 5 goals explored previously, we considered the impact of being assigned to a classroom with an educator implementing the modern classroom project versus non-modern classroom project teachers. The study compared student academic outcomes, including standardized assessments, attendance, and grades, to those students in the same courses but taught traditionally. T-tests were used to compare averages across the 2 different groups to determine whether those differences were statistically significant or more likely to chance. The following was found. There were higher SOL pass rates in both English and math in comparison to their non-MCP counterparts. These results were statistically significant for both English language arts and with math SOLs. With reference to student growth over the course of the year, students in 6th grade math classrooms implementing the modern classrooms model had higher average SOL vertical scaled scores during the fall 23, winter 24, and spring 24. This difference was also statistically significant at each point in time. In 7th grade, English language arts classrooms implementing the modern classrooms model, students had higher average SOL vertical scaled scores during winter 24 and spring 24. This difference was statistically significant for those 2 points. There were two key additional findings from our study that looked at attendance rates and final grades. When it came to attendance, on average, classrooms implementing the modern classroom project had fewer total absences than the same classes not implementing the modern classroom project, 133 to 174. This difference is statistically significant. Lastly, when analyzing impact on final grades, classrooms implementing MCP on average issued more A's and B's, 68%, than the same classes not implementing Modern Classroom Project, 57%. MCP implementing classrooms awarded fewer C's, D's, and E's than non-Modern Classrooms, Modern Classroom Project classrooms. These differences were also found to be statistically significant. As part of the study's recommendations, there were 3 key recommendations for consideration. First, address the need to fully implement the model as prescribed. According to the study, less than half the MCP teachers were using all 3 components with a high degree of fidelity. Second, address the need to capitalize on successes of some of the early adopter teachers and to learn from their collective experiences. We currently have 7 teachers who've earned Distinguished Educator status from Modern Classroom Project, and we're leveraging their expertise and sharing their knowledge with our newest group of teachers who are coming on board. Lastly, it was recommended to continue to harness the power of collaboration through the professional learning community established by our Department of Professional and Organizational Development. This concludes my formal presentation. I'd be happy to address any questions that you have at this time. Thank you.
Dr. Walker?
Thank you, Dr. Larkin. I think that's incredible. I'm super interested in this, and I could probably ask a million questions, but I'll keep it short, I promise. I'm curious. First of all, I thought it was really interesting that it verifies everything we know, right? Relationships go up, behavior goes down. Engagement goes up, behaviors go down. So I loved seeing not only that to be validated, but like very strongly. And then I feel a little unclear with the trajectory. So you mentioned that there's more training opportunities for more teachers to become NCP qualified or whatever the licensure is for that. But it's in 3 middle schools right now. What's the trajectory for growing in that and maybe expanding to more middle schools? I'd love to hear that.
Sure. Now, we're excited about the opportunity for this year. So at this point, we have 72 teachers that are currently going through the training. They were trained this summer. As part of the Summer Institute, what happens is they get partnered with a teacher from across the nation that have been vetted through the Modern Classroom Project, and they help those teachers develop their initial units of study, which is pretty powerful. So at this point, we have those 72 teachers that have gone through. We currently have 5 middle schools that have now come on board. So from the 3 that we had last year on top of the 5, so we now have 8 middle schools that are going to have some iteration of the Modern Classroom Project within their building. What we found was that those teachers that went through the formal training, there's a free training that you could do. It's an online module course, which is about 4 hours. Many of them took that initial portion of it, but then they also had teachers within their buildings and their PLCs that were going through this model. And when they started seeing the effect of what those teachers were doing within their classrooms and on the students, they were then jumping on board. And we had a number of teachers that didn't go through the official training but started utilizing this model of instruction. So it was kind of a grassroots, approach, and that was really the way that we didn't want to come top down and tell them that everybody has to move in this direction. Essentially what we're finding is that the data is definitely very revealing, and it's very exciting to see what's happening within our schools. But we're also excited to share that we also have one high school that came on board this year, and that's Indian River High School.
So at this point, it's all voluntary based on teachers' interest, and at this point, it's 5 middle schools and 1 high school.
At this point, it's 8 middle schools and 1 high school.
8 middle schools
yes,
and 1
ma'am.
high school, sorry. Okay. Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. McCormick?
Dr. Larkin, thank you so much for that presentation. It's really a unique and exciting venture that you're on with this. I know statistics can always be skewed, and the disparity of this is quite dramatic. So I just wanted to have a few follow-up questions, and maybe I missed it at the beginning, of where the non-modern classroom sample pool came from. Was it from the same school? Was it, how was that data pool?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, so actually what we ended up doing was, I didn't do the study, but they did pull from the same schools. So it was from Hickory, it was from Oscar Smith and Western Branch Middle that they used comparable teachers from those respective areas. And if there was an MCP teacher, say grade 6 math, they tried to find a grade 6 math teacher that was not implementing that particular model.
Okay, so same school, same year.
Yes, sir.
Got it. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Well,
Seeing no additional questions, I do have one quick comment. I did speak to one of our teachers personally that has been going through the training this summer, one of our newer in the additional 5 middle schools, and she's very excited about the program and definitely emphasized that it felt very, very important that we continue to support the collaborative component of this, that being able to take this on with her team was something that she felt was going to make this even more successful than it might be on its own. So I know that you all are encouraging that, and I just want to put an exclamation point on that.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
Thank you for always looking for innovative ways to keep our education for these kids at the very highest level. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Actually, Dr. Walker has one additional question.
Sure.
I'm so sorry. I do have one more question. Given the statistics that you did share surrounding like teachers' thoughts on this and how much more positive they feel about education and the future of education and all that, how is this data being communicated to teachers for the efforts of hopefully more people wanting to kind of join the efforts?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we did. So we actually just went through the process this morning. We shared the information with our principals. So for the principals that are currently going through the process, but also with all of our schools, primarily at secondary level at this point in time, but giving that information to them. You all were the first ones to receive this official report, but we'll be sharing it with all the other staff as well. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Dr. Larkin.
Thank you.
There being no items on the action agenda this evening, we will move on to the superintendent's report. Over to you, Dr. Cotton.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Just have a couple of announcements for September. As you all probably know, September is Attendance Awareness Month. It's also National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. So definitely we have some initiatives in place to emphasize how important these two areas are to our community. The back-to-school season obviously presents an ideal opportunity to raise awareness on these important topics, and we have more information and valuable resources located on our website. As a reminder, a copy of all school board policies and regulations are available in board docs. A link to board docs is available on our website. Citizens who do not have online access should contact the clerk of the board's office for assistance, and she will be happy to assist you. All right, we also have a couple other back-to-school updates. Transportation, just a quick note about transportation, which is always a challenge as the school year begins. Please know that we regularly review and adjust our bus routes, but ongoing driver shortages, as I mentioned at the last board meeting, continues to cause some delays. To improve efficiency, we're exploring new routing software and strengthening communication with our parents about route updates. We have also increased driver pay significantly as we go into this year, and we offered bonuses last year. We continue to offer bonuses as well to our new drivers, and we're committed to providing the best transportation service possible, and we'll continue to make improvements as we move forward. I do also want to make a statement about student enrollment. As for student enrollment, our team has been working diligently to process the high number of special enrollments that inevitably occur at this time each year. I'm very proud of our team because I've watched them work with our families right there in the lobby, and they've been moving very quickly to get our parents through the process. We are looking at ways to make this process even more efficient and easier for parents and guardians to navigate and complete the necessary paperwork to ensure there are no delays as the year begins. A lot of our challenges come from parents not submitting all of the required documentation, and again, we're working to have a process in place in the future to make sure they're aware that they haven't submitted all those documents before we process their application. I appreciate the hard work of our staff in getting these applications processed as quickly as they can, so we'll continue to work on that. Now, on a brighter note, we're going to move into our spotlight for September. I'm happy to share with you all that we've had a wonderful opening last Tuesday and a fantastic first week of school. It was nice to see all the hard work leading up to the first day of school pay off, and even better to see all of the smiles on everyone's faces as they return to school. I see some teachers in the audience, and they're still smiling, so that's a good sign. Thank you to everyone who has been working to make this transition from summer so smooth, and we're excited for another great school year. The excitement always begins with preschool week, when our teachers and staff finally return to the buildings. Everyone was busy setting up classrooms, planning lessons, and participating in district-wide professional development opportunities. It was exciting to see all of our staff preparing for what is sure to be another fun and fruitful school year. While the teachers, administrators, and staff spent the weeks leading up to the first day of school setting up and preparing, we also had a huge helping hand from over 300 service members from across the area during the 8th annual Servicing Our Schools event. Thanks to our partnership with NSA, Hampton Roads, Northwest Annex, service members came to 30 Chesapeake schools to assist in back-to-school preparation. Thank you to all the service members who took time to help our schools. We thank you and salute you for your service. I'd also like to thank some of our high school students who also volunteered their time to assist schools across the district and make sure they were ready for a great first day. Student council associations, Great Bridge Wrestling, and other organizations took time out of their last week of summer vacation, which is very difficult to do when your time is getting away from you. We got our high schoolers to come in and lend a helping hand. It's always nice to see our students doing so much good for our school district and the community, and we could not be more proud and appreciative of their efforts. This year, we are fortunate enough to have even more school resource deputies from the Chesapeake Sheriff's Office in our elementary schools this year. This incredible partnership was also on display recently thanks to a generous donation from the Sheriff's Department to the Chesapeake Public Schools Educational Foundation's Teacher Supply Store. The donation was a part of the Badges and Backpacks campaign. They delivered an entire bus full of supplies and one of the biggest donations in history of the Teacher Supply Store. Thank you to Under Sheriff Rosado and the Sheriff's Office for their commitment to our community. Your support helps our students succeed. We are very proud of another long-standing partnership with Heartland Construction and Comfort Systems of Virginia. Thanks to these two groups, Georgetown Primary received a new look for their courtyard just in time for the new school year. The courtyard now features a music wall, tons of interactive pieces for our students, eye-popping murals, and more. We could not be more grateful for the work they do to help our students and their communities, and we cannot wait to see all the smiles that Georgetown's new courtyard brings as we begin another year of learning. Indian River High School physical education teacher Debbie Fry was recently honored as a recipient of the Teacher Excellence Award by the American Driver and Traffic Safety Education Association for her excellence in driver education. As one of 3 recipients nationally, the impact that Mrs. Fry has had on her students and their education is evident. More importantly, her commitment to providing her students with the knowledge and the ability to be safe on the roads will have an immeasurable impact on the community for generations to come. Congratulations on being recognized for being an amazing educator, Mrs. Fry, and thank you for all you do for our students. It was a fantastic way to see so many smiling faces in the hallways, at the bus stop, and in the classroom last Tuesday from the first day of school. It's always a day full of smiles and energy, and we were excited to kick off a brand new school year with all of our students, teachers, administrators, and staff. It was so nice to see many pictures from our schools across the city, and even better to see so many people interacting and sharing their photos using our hashtag #FirstDayCPSVA. Take a look at some of our first day highlights. Madam Chair and members of the board, that completes my spotlight for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Cotton. Last on our agenda this evening is board member items. Does any board member have an item to bring before the group? Over to you, Ms. Scott.
Thanks. I just had a couple of quick comments. Kind of to piggyback off of what Dr. Cotton was talking about earlier with our transportation and some of the delays that we've had and the vacancies. I just wanted to take a minute to commend our bus drivers. My family was one of the families, many families, that was impacted by bus delays, not due to any fault of our bus drivers, but in fact, Ms. Happer really picking up the slack for events that were beyond her control. And actually, I had great peace of mind knowing that she was behind the wheel, and that if anybody could handle a day like that, it was Ms. Happer. And I just wanted our bus drivers to know that many Chesapeake families, we appreciate you. We appreciate you very much, and we even talk about you at the bus stop in a very positive way. In fact, the first day of school, we were all, the Plantation Lake Circle crew, we were all talking about Ms. Happer and Ms. Haffrey and just how much we love you and appreciate you. And I know that the board is very aware of the vacancies, and I have confidence that Dr. Cotton, Mr. Benson, and Dr. Austin are doing everything they can to help fill those vacancies and make that job as appealing as it can be. But we just appreciate you coming to work every day. I know it's hard, and I know with the vacancies it makes your job so much harder. But thank you. Thank you for coming every day. You know, a lot of families depend on you, and we trust you. And we appreciate you getting our kids to school safely every single day. And the other thing I wanted to mention, school nutrition. My son has come home, my youngest son, 4th grader at Greenbrier Intermediate, where Miss Rittenauer teaches, and she's great. He's come home every day with a funny story about this new individual who works with school nutrition in the cafeteria. And we have loved hearing about it at the dinner table. And I don't know your name, but you are a man, and apparently you can speak Spanish too. And you've made quite the impression on Rowan Scott. He thinks you're pretty cool. And I thought this was worth mentioning because it goes to show that no matter what your role is in Chesapeake Public Schools, it's very important. And you have an opportunity to make an impact on somebody's day. And a lot of times it's a little person that you're making an impact on. And I just want you to know that I appreciate you and just thank you for doing what you do every day. Ms. Rittenauer, maybe you can help me figure out who this person is so I can give him a shout out. But Rowan thinks he's really awesome, and so do we. And that's all. Thanks.
Wow, well said, Ms. Scott. Seeing no other board member comments at this time, we will call this meeting adjourned.
Sailors from Naval Support Activity